this is the path that NBA champions have to travel moving forward. The years where you could buy a winner, they're probably gone forever. The Celtics, as you mentioned, did kind of buy a winner in 2008 when they traded for KG and Ray. The Miami Heat bought a winner when they acquired LeBron and Chris Bosh. Look, Golden State was built organically, but you can certainly argue they bought a winner when they acquired Kevin Durant and added him to that mix. Look at the recent champions, though. 2021, the Milwaukee Bucks. What did they have to go through to get to that championship level? They had to go through first-round losses, second-round losses, disappointment along the way. The Warriors won in 2022. Last year, the Denver Nuggets, same thing, though. They had to go through and take their lumps along the way to get to that championship level. Similarly, Boston, like this Tatum-Brown duo has been together for 7 years. They have made 5 conference finals in that time. They have made now 2 NBA finals. And it's only now, after having the experience of the past failures, that they break through. It's only now after the front office learned what it needed to acquire to make this team a champion that they finally broke through. This is the path that teams are going to have to travel now. Like we saw this past season, like the Phoenix Suns tried to buy themselves a championship. That didn't work. And Mark, that's not going to work moving forward. Not in the era where, you know, you can only spend a certain amount before trade restrictions kick in, hard caps kick in. Like this is the way it's going to have to go, where teams are built organically, lose a bunch along the way before finally breaking through.
Yeah, you hit a really key point here. And because of the spending restrictions that teams have above the second apron, if you are going to go all in with top heavy stars, well, that's great. You have talent, but you don't have roster depth, and you're only an injury away from it falling like a house of cards. And then I think the other thing is there is a key difference from making a key move that is, you know, the missing piece to a championship puzzle, you know, much like Kristaps Porzingis or even a Drew Holiday. But you have to have that core 1 or 2 players having continuity, having health, and preferably you're having them grow organically in their prime. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown epitomize that. I think the encouraging thing, and you and I have discussed this ad nauseum, this idea that, you know, they don't get along or they don't coexist well, like that was always inaccurate. The only learning curves that they ever experienced were all tactical things. Like there was always a want to be able to fit together and adjust their games. They just had to learn to do that tactically. And you saw through each season, they made more and more inroads in knowing how to be more efficient shooters, being better playmakers without diluting their individual greatness. And it did help that they had someone like Porzingis as a third option to help with floor spacing, passing, shooting. It did help that they had someone like Drew Holiday that can play on both ends of the floor. Same thing with Derek White. But I think that's the real invigorating part.
And you can play the who they played game with a lot of different championship teams. You can play it with the Nuggets from last year. They beat up on a young Timberwolves team in the first round. Chris Paul only plays 2 games for Phoenix in the second round. The Lakers clearly not ready for prime time in the conference finals, a 7 seed. And then they go into the finals and they play Miami Heat. But you play the teams that are in front of you. There's no picking and choosing in the NBA. It's not college sports where you can just schedule somebody when you want to schedule them. You play the teams that have the success. And, you know, Denver went out and blitzed the teams that were in front of them. Boston just did the exact same thing. So, no, I don't think it takes away or tarnishes anything that the Celtics have done. And look, the numbers speak for themselves. 4th best point differential in NBA history. It would be 3rd best, but the 3rd team on that list is the 2017 Golden State Warriors that had Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Like, I mean, what are we talking about here? This Celtics team was great, is great, deserves all the credit in the world. Jason Tatum, I think now one of 6 players in NBA history to lead his team in points, rebounds, and assists in the playoffs. Like, they accomplished a lot. It takes nothing away from them. Now, look, as I mentioned, the NBA doesn't like dynasties. This will be the 6th team to win a championship in the last 6 years. And you and I both know Adam Silver loves it that way. He loves it that way, Mark. He wants that NFL style of parity. But the Celtics, they're in a position here to potentially buck that trend, to keep a championship window open for 1 or 2 more years. The entire core of the team, all the way down to Sam Hauser, who has a team option, is under contract for next season. The key pieces, Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, all under the age of 30. Derek White turns 30 this summer. Drew Holiday's in his mid-30s, but he doesn't look like he's slowing down one bit. Al Horford's 38 years old, but he's at 30 minutes per game. Al Horford can still be a contributing player next season. Are the Celtics well positioned? I mean, I know we said right at the top that you think they're the favorite going into next season, but how big a favorite going into next season?
Well, part of that we'll know in the offseason with moves, but I think regardless, I'm going to put them as the favorite because they have everything intact. They have the depth, they have the continuity, they have the talent. And while you do think, keep your eyes on Philadelphia, they're trying to add a wing player with Joel Embiid and Paul George. You look at the Western Conference landscape with, both the Lakers and the Nuggets hoping to make moves. Same thing with Minnesota trying to build off of this past year's playoff failure. Whether any team decides to just mostly improve from within and run it back or make changes, I don't think it matters that much because it doesn't match the kind of depth and continuity that the Celtics have. And even if there is a team that makes some dramatic moves this offseason, you still have to account for the fact that they're going to need to go through their lumps with ironing out chemistry and roles. So I think regardless of what we see in the draft and free agency coming up, pin down the Celtics as the favorite to win it all next season. And, by what margin? I don't think it's going to be, seemingly inevitable, but I would say that there's a sizable difference between the Celtics and the rest of the field in both conferences.